Hello, my name is Yusuke Wada. I'm your local funeral director in Japan. And a lot of people ask me about performance, and not only performance, and perfectionism. Because funerals, undertakers need to keep a very good high profile for themselves. And what happens is we all go for the performance. And what does performance mean when you are talking to the clients? Because funerals itself is a service. It's for hire. Matter of fact, Japanese funerals, you have to go one step or two steps more than your clients are asking for. This becomes a performance issue, and it's also a costly issue where people do not really understand, because the price of funerals in Japan is dropping rapidly. And what happens is people just burn themselves out. All right, there are many YouTube videos on performance issues, performance, productivity, anything like that. There are many, I'm not the first one or I'm not the last one. It's just there, you have to understand. So I want to talk about this performance and funerals and in general to let you know what's really going on. Overcoming the overthinking and perfectionism. Perfectionism, everyone wants to be perfect in your job, but up to what point are you paid for that job? Or who is responsible for your act? You got to think about it. First, you have to understand about the problems you're having. Understanding all the problems, you got to lay it down on the table, write it down. Why are you overthinking? Most of the worries, 90% of the worries, it's not going to happen, they say. I'm not sure about that number, that 90%, but most of the thing, it's not going to happen. And more you do, more work you get dumped on. That's called performance punishment. I've had that so many times when I was working as an engineer as well. More work you do, more job your boss dumps on you. And I believe military is like the same as well. More efficient, more work you do, more tasks that you're given. And 24/7, you're given that task. So you're constantly aiming for perfection, and usually you're overanalyzing and you get stuck there. This is the biggest issue we have in human life. And at the end, like when someone dies, they regret that what you went through. Meanwhile, you have to think that you got to self-reflection. You got to make a self-reflection. You got to see yourself in the mirror and saying, what is going on in your life? What's going through in your mind? What is it? You got to identify your goals. What is a priority in that goal? What is it? And is it for the client? Is it for your pay? What is it? You have to find the goal and the reason. There's a big why, it's a question of Simon Sinek. Why? What is the goal and why are you doing it? Why? You have to ask yourself why, and why you shouldn't wait until tomorrow, or why you should wait till tomorrow, and why you should do it now. There's an old saying that do it now or it'll be taxed later. That's another thing, but why are you doing it? And then you have to reflect yourself in the mirror and see, is this correct? Are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it for the money? Are you doing it for your friends? Are you doing it for your family? What is it? But then the most important thing to do is to realize that you are doing it for yourself. There's always a procrastinator in your life. Procrastinator. I'm a procrastinator. I don't do all the things. I'm not diligent. It's really hard. I catch one of these things, cell phones. Now, I start looking on these cell phones and start looking at Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I keep on looking on that. What is that? You got to identify these saboteurs in your life, in your work habits. What is it? What's the negative voice? There's an evil and there's a good angel fighting all the way, all the time, saying, oh, do this, oh, procrastinate, oh, look in your Facebook, oh, look at the messenger, go check the email. And then there's a little angel in here saying, get to work, go for it. Otherwise, you're not going to get the work done. So the thing is, you are constantly bombarded with the message somewhere in your head that's saying, you're not good enough. You're not legitimate. This isn't enough. You're worthless. That's why you go for perfectionism. You keep on striving more and more. And what happens is you just end up burning yourself out. So you got to identify what's the saboteur in your mind. What is it? Is it the perfectionism? Is it the demon, that's a little demon in your head? What is it? You got to think about this productivity. Productivity, you got to think about how much you produce in a day, in the 24 hours or whatever in a time span, you're getting it done. It's focused on quantity, how much you get things done. But efficiency, it's a tool, to get it productive, to cut corners. But then cutting corners is not always correct. It's based on time, how much things you can get done in that time. That's efficiency. Get rid of the redundant things. Once it's checked, you don't have to recheck for everything. I see people using Microsoft Excel and spreadsheet, and then a lot of people still using calculators and recalculating, saying, oh, I don't trust the spreadsheet. These people are idiots. You got to understand that that's what's causing the inefficiency, losing productivity. You see, because they want to be flawless, perfect with the numbers. Once the Excel, the spreadsheet is made, you don't have to change it unless there's equation error. And someone's got to figure that out. But that's not your job. It's whoever built the spreadsheet. And you got to blame it on them, not yourself. If you find it, you got to tell them. That's your job. There's a lot of challenges, pitfalls. You fall short. You fall in a hole. You lose your mind trying to become productive, trying to become perfect. This is one of the situations that a lot of people are having. You just fall short of a lot of things. You overemphasize. You keep on saying, I'm not good enough. And then you just burnt yourself out. And then everything goes sour. The whole workflow goes sour because you're not there. You should be doing something else better instead of making everything, trying to work for yourself, being perfect. There's a flaw of work. And then someone is to catch that. This is why you have teamwork. You're just afraid of being non-productive. All right. There's a lot of things that you realize that in hypotheses you built in work. A turns out to be B, which turns out to be C. Therefore, you get D out of it. There are sometimes things don't work out right. You just realize no matter what you do, no matter how much you try, you don't get the result. Then at that point, you have to realize that you have to change. You have to reevaluate the assumptions that you were making. This is why in science class you write down hypotheses, and then you jot it down. Realize the outcome. Sometimes these outcomes don't show up the way it is. You have to realize the assumption is wrong in some cases. So you have to reevaluate the assumptions. There's a flaw in hypotheses. There's a goal in productivity. What makes you satisfied? What brings you this happiness when you get that thing done? Is it the time? Is it the quality? Is it the quantity? But what is the goal of this productivity? You have to think. Sometimes you need all of it. But then, can you do it all? There is an issue that if you're working with a team, you have to diverse your work. You can't be the driver, the manager. You can't be the person who's steering and running on the engine and mechanic and all that all at once. Everything is a byproduct. You have to realize you get this done, you get this result. What you do is you make it down to a science and make it more efficient. And then realize you don't have to think how to do it. Once that is done, you get the purpose. What is the purpose of building this? What is the efficient way of making this or processing this? You have to think of what the goal of this productivity is. A lot of people forget about that. The goal of the productivity. It's not just productivity. You make yourself product. What is the goal of making this system more productive? This efficiency, productivity is based on quantity. Quantity, yes, number of things that you produce in a certain amount of time, but that's called efficiency. But efficiency Efficiency just doesn't get everything. Efficiency is keeping up the PDCA, plan, do, check, action cycle over and over, and then rechecking, and then making that happen faster, and then cutting unnecessary things. But things like that, you have to optimize. Optimization is the key of any productivity. And some people forget about optimization. Anyone ever thought of this Lund-Length encoding? 30, 40 years ago, the hard disks were encoded with RLE encoding to making that 20 megabyte hard disk into 30 megabyte hard disk. Now you get 256 or gigabytes or even a 1 terabyte on one little chip like that. So what it is if you have 100 zeros, you just write down 0, 100. That is the way Lund-Length encoding works. Then you have like another 3 ones. You got then things like 3 ones or 4 ones. It's not going to make that much of a difference in byte wise. But then if you have like 10s and 20s of same numbers, you just write down 20 ones or 24s. There are 24s in this pack. Then you just encode it and make it shorter. This is called Lund-Length encoding. And you have to optimize for that. You have to do the optimization to keep yourself running faster and smoother. Sometimes you need help to do this. People need help to make you realize that this is something you're doing it incorrectly or correctly. What makes you think that you're doing everything right? You have to evaluate yourself. Evaluate what your work is. You do this work, but what does it mean? There are many works that you do, but it doesn't make impact. But then that impact, that little tiny hole in the dam could make a big impact. You have to realize that what you are doing, you have to measure yourself. What's the result of this productivity? Is everyone keeping up with you? You can't be the only one that's being really productive. The rest of the team just staying there, stagnating. You have to have everyone work together. You have to realize you get things done, you got to help others to keep things more efficient, more productive. You're not the only one that's doing all the work. To make one product, you have many people working on it. This is called teamwork. The teamwork should be in a way that you help each other to keep yourself productive, not only yourself productive, the whole team productive, to manufacture the things, or to produce anything, even a tomato in a farmland. You just can't plant seed and let it hope that it's going to grow to big tomato. You have to seed it. We got to put nutrients. You got to water it. You got to get it away from the crows and all the bugs and all that. Someone's going to have to do it, but you can't do everything alone to produce a fertilizer. You can't produce water. You got to get an irrigation system and all that. So what you have to do is, if you measure everything, it's called a big help. Someone's going to help you. You help someone else. This is what's needed in life. You got to realize that there's someone in your head that's always telling you that, oh, you don't have to do this. Let's go and take a break. Let's go and take a look in your cell phone. Let's see Facebook Messenger, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Let's all do that. And instead of this hard work, is it going to pay off? If that's going to pay off, that's good, but that usually doesn't. So what you got to do is you got to focus on yourself. Focusing is really hard. Once you start doing it, you have this cycle of endorphin and oxytocin and serotonin and all that coming into you. It's going to have to start running. And then you always have to keep on reevaluating your task, what you are doing, especially in the undertaker business. It's a 1 night, 2 day job, or sometimes it's only a 1 day job. But is your customer satisfied with your job or your service, or what could you have done to at least make it more efficient so your client doesn't have to wait for something that's at your fault? Waiting for crematoriums to open up is not your problem. It's the problem of crematorium, because in Tokyo, you have to wait for at least 3 or 4 days, or sometimes seven days. And some people complain that, oh, I've been waiting for 10 days or so. No, well, there is a way of making it productive. but people just don't want to pay for that productivity. But then they end up paying more. What happens is you have to tell people what the goal is to make yourself productive and make your clients happy. Basically, you have to keep on this saboteur in your head that's saying you're not good enough, but you are good enough. You got to realize that what is not good enough for you, but what is good enough for you. And then you tell your clients that applying this method will make you happier for your funeral and people who require services. I've talked enough right now. I just want to say thank you very much for listening, and I hope you to have an all good day and see you again. Bye-bye.